You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast, exposing the struggles and celebrating the successes in the life of coaches who are action takers and creating authentic impact in today's world. Whether you're just starting out, expanding your reach, or exploding your impact, you're in the right place right now. Stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Now, here are your hosts of the Coach's Journey podcast.
So in the beginning, what I'm hearing is we will need to do a little bit of work to engage the community, whether it was through questions or through the trainings that we're doing and asking questions in relation to those, or getting them to get involved in those things. And then later on, as the numbers pick up, then people start to get more and more engaged anyway. And a couple of modifications that I've seen over the years, even within the CHBC group, is that we brought in a networking component as well, where people get together. And has that been helpful?
Yeah, we brought in, are you talking about our online or virtual?
Yeah, online virtual networking.
So during the pandemic, I mean, the CHPC community has been used to, over the years, getting together in person at live events and having a space to connect in person just for the coaches before a bigger event would begin. And there was so much connection time and networking, and just the community really thrived on those opportunities. And when the pandemic hit, obviously all that stopped for several years. We just went back to our first in-person event last month in December. But during that time, there was a real, it just felt like something was missing. And so we tried to build in some networking sessions throughout the year to give people a chance on Zoom to connect and put them into breakouts and have those conversations similar to what they might have had at an in-person experience. So kind of giving an opportunity to connect more, have more in-depth connection, and kind of giving people a chance to meet someone they may not have met otherwise. So that it's kind of was random, whoever you were thrown in the group with. So I think that helped keep people connected and engaged when we were through the pandemic as well.
Yeah, for me, it was helpful when I was engaged. I really loved the networking pieces of it, because I wanted to stay connected. And what it would do is, like, we would get together with 4 or 5 people. And I never talked to some of these guys, and then I would connect with them afterwards too, because not everybody engages in the main, let's say if you have a Facebook main feed, there are very few people, from what I've noticed, that regularly engage. And then most of the people that are more in observation mode. Is that something you've observed as well, Michelle?
Yeah, I think there's a handful of people who are more active in the Facebook community. And I think there are groups of people who have connected in other ways, whether it's through a networking session or through a live event, who they have their connections and their group of coaches that they connect with outside. So I think, and that is one thing that we really encourage. I know you have done this in finding coaches to stay connected with and do beta coaching and along the way, and getting a few years back, getting started that way. We encourage people to connect with, 3 or 4 other coaches, and create your own little pod and go from there with it. So we really encourage that. I think that's built into a lot of our language as well. I know Brendan, the founder of the coaching program, encourages that through all his trainings. And we try to encourage that, like, reach out in the community to look for if you need someone to practice with. And we see that a lot in the community too, but just encouraging people, like directing them, like, connect with each other, stay connected. This is your support system. Keep going. You can always reach out, to me or to whoever, the company who's running the program, but stay connected with each other. And really, I think that language has always been, or more recently has been, built into our communication as well. Like, just reminding. I think one piece about community is also the communication and building in reminders around stay connecting, connect and practice, join this piece and network and meet more people. So I think that language is a big piece that we've built in, and just giving people opportunities to connect and keep that going.
Yeah, I love that.
Michelle, I'm curious, as the CHPC community has been progressing and evolving through all the crazy world events, you guys have had some experience on the integration or the synergy between the virtual community and the in-person community. Now, you've had that synergy for quite some time, and then that synergy went away because half of that went away for a period of time. Through that whole process, what have you guys learned as maybe some best practices or things that you guys are like, ooh, we definitely need to make sure we do things this way in the future or as best we can? What are some of those synergy kind of best practices?
I think that one thing that we have learned is that how important the virtual piece is in keeping connected. I mean, the in-person piece is huge and amazing. And I was so beyond grateful to be able to go back to an in-person event and just see people face to face, like real life, last month. And
I remember when you guys announced it, I was waiting because I didn't want to sign up for the virtual one. I'm like, yes, I looked at the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a different type of energy. And I don't think the virtual element will ever go away. And because it also has, it provides so many opportunities to stay connected when you don't have to travel or the expense or connecting with people who are halfway around the world. There's just so many more possibilities for connection in the virtual space as well. So I think we realize the importance even more so of the virtual piece. And we love the in-person too, but the virtual piece, making sure that remains, is a really big piece, and it just opens up so many opportunities. And I think when you're talking about, I'll just touch on one piece of training. It's how people are connecting day to day in their coaching businesses. So it gives practice to, this is how you're going to be having conversations with your clients. It helps people to focus a little bit more. So I think the piece is virtual is not going away. We're not, it's still keeping a combination of both of those. And in a live setting where you're kind of doing a hybrid piece, just making sure that there is focus still on the virtual as well to create, it's looking at all the details of how do you create the experience virtually. So for example, making sure that there is somebody engaging with the community in chat or the virtual element, whether it's a hybrid or a completely virtual piece. I know we have some amazing team members who do that and really make sure to give shouts out in the chat. I think that's one piece that really we learned a lot about, making sure that connection and that where you can't give somebody a high five virtually, really, like in person, like you're doing that in the chat and finding ways to celebrate people and engage so people feel seen, even on a big Zoom that way. Those are the ones that are popping out for me right now. I'm sure there are so many more, but they're just not coming to mind. I mean, we learned so much during the the past few years. I mean, it was a lot of pivoting really quickly. But those are the two that are popping out for me right now. Just continuing the engagement and having a combination of in-person and virtual moving forward.
Which like I'm curious now, because much of what we've done has been virtual, and you've had experience both in a mix of in-person and virtual, and also during the pandemic, mostly virtual. So do you, in your experience, do you feel like it's important to have the in-person component if we're like building it for our clients? I kind of noticed that last year I collaborated with another organization who's doing in-person, and I connected that with my virtual community, and I invited a bunch of my clients there. For me, it was amazing because I got to sit down with my clients after 2.5, 3 years of coaching with them and just being with them in person. It was a whole different experience. I feel like it connected us more. So in your opinion, as a coach that they're starting to build, should that be something in their mind to build the in-person component while they're focusing on the virtual?
I personally think in-person just has a whole different energy level to it. just the side conversations that can take place. And I know that it isn't always feasible sometimes to have everyone come together in person. So I think that having a combination of, maybe there is an in-person element option, but also making sure that people who cannot attend the in-person option have an opportunity to attend virtually. I think that's an important piece. So if they're not able to travel or that they can still be part of the community and still connect. I know that's one thing we did in our past in-person event, where we still had a virtual element to it, because
was the coaching summit the only one that you guys did the virtual plus the virtual component of it?
Yes, that's our first event back since in almost 3 years. So that was our first piece of it. So we did have a virtual element to it, and we had team members actually facilitating that piece of it, so that people could participate that way if they could not travel. So I think if you're building a community for your coaching clients, I think my opinion is that it would be helpful to really make sure that there's an opportunity for everyone to participate, even if they cannot travel and be there in person. And that may take extra work, may take additional team members to help facilitate that. And it's not, there are two different experiences, but you're including everyone, and everyone's included in that community in whatever way they are able to participate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking about, obviously it depends where you are on the journey. If you're just bringing a few people together, I don't know how you could do it. And also there's resources and technology and all sorts of stuff that goes into it that makes the process complicated. And actually I'm thinking about the facilitation side of it, makes the facilitation complicated as well. But if you're in a place, I feel like if we're in a place where we can include everybody, I think that's a really cool practice to have, especially those, there are CHPCs who are all the way in Europe and all parts of the world.
Yeah.
It was not feasible for them to travel as easily as some of us were able to do that. So it is such a great thing to have, which is the power of technology, which kind of takes me towards, because I know Growth has kind of experimented with Circle as well, and there are community features that are popping up in Kajabi, and then to this day, as far as I know, CHPC is within Facebook. So what has been the experience with the technology, with the interface?
With Facebook or with?
What have you learned around being in Facebook, developing your virtual community in Facebook versus Circle versus all these other platforms that are popping up around community engagement?
For a variety of reasons, we've decided to keep the CHPC community in Facebook. For just some of the capabilities that we needed at the time we were looking at different platforms. So there are other communities that the company runs that are in other platforms, but for the needs of the coaching community, we kept it in Facebook at this time. So I can't really speak to all of the different platforms because there were reasons we didn't move the community or the coaching community over to any of those because of some of the guidelines and some of the things we needed, some of the capabilities we needed for that specific community. So, but I know that there's a lot of people who, do a lot in Circle and in Kajabi. We just have not moved the coaching community to another platform for a variety of capability reasons for what we need.
Yeah, sort of. As I'm thinking about it, for example, I was thinking about bringing in. There's some people who don't even want to be in Facebook.
Yeah.
There's, especially politically, there's been a lot of stuff around that. And then I was thinking, okay, what if I added them in WhatsApp or Kajabi? And then some people don't want to be in WhatsApp. So it creates a challenge around how do I communicate with everybody? And I think part of the reason why these other interfaces are popping up is in response to that need. Okay, Facebook and all these social media platforms are becoming so political.
Right.
Some people just want to move away from them because their clients don't want to be on it. So have you dealt with any part of that at all?
That is not a decision that is on my plate to make. So when we receive feedback, we pass it along to someone who makes those decisions on the platforms the company uses for various communities. I will say that we do use, and while it's not a community as in Facebook and commenting as much or posts as much, we do use Kajabi for a members area. And we do post a lot of things to keep the content and the training and communication in a members area, which I think is a really important piece of community, is a way to still have a place where people can log in to find communication as well. And, a lot of people will comment in Kajabi. Kajabi does have a comment feature. So that is also an option too, but a way to keep the communication stored in one spot if people need to reference it as well.
Yeah, and we'll kind of start going towards wrap up, and then a little bit of just some context for those who don't know what these are. Is like these are several, like Kajabi is a platform where and I've had since we got the promotion from Brendan, I've stayed with Kajabi until now, and basically it's a platform that allows you to kind of have your email marketing, your products, your payment system, everything in one place. I like Kajabi for those purposes, and it allows you to have a common feature. But recently, so I actually was with one of their access managers, and she was showing me around the new community feature. What they I think they collaborated with. What is that company? Bitly something Lee something.
Oh.
Vibely. So they collaborated with Vibely to create this community feature, which was really cool. As she walked me through it, it was really cool. I've always had reservation for moving from one to the other one. But when I was looking at it, it was kind of a mix of like a Facebook feed plus like a WhatsApp type of environment. You could do both, and we're experimenting with that within CMC a little bit. But having an app with that and being able to seeing like if these technologies pick up, it might make it easier for people to stay engaged, especially if there's an app, and kind of stay away from the other aspects of social media that might be distracting or they don't want to get involved with. Just as a context for those who are listening.
You're listening to the Coach's Journey podcast.